back to all of our club members, and do we have a special month for you? This month we're doing a Maison feature, a house feature. And I don't think it's any surprise that many of you know that I'm very fond of the house of Nicolas Fillette. Now, a little of the history of the Maison, and you'll find this as interesting as I do, I think. This is the youngest of the large champagne houses. So we're talking around 40 years of age, founded by the man Nicolas Fillette. Sometimes we forget that there's people behind these businesses. Nicolas Fillette didn't start his life in the champagne business, even though he was a Frenchman. He was actually living in New York. He was a bon vivant. He was a coffee importer. So he really did know the craft of import. And he did that very successfully for quite some time before he moved back to France in 1976 and set up the cooperative, and I'll explain that in a moment, that is the house of Nicolas Fillette. 2 years later, in 1978, good year, I'm just saying, he founded the first release of the wine. It's my birth year, of course. 1978 was the first release of the wine, and from there, the history writes itself. Now, think about this. We've got houses like Veuve Clicquot, we've got houses like Moet et Chandon. They date back to the 17 and 1800s. They've got huge vineyard holdings, they've got huge businesses, huge global marketing budgets. Nicky Fu, as we now affectionately call it, Nicolas Fillette, is the #1 selling champagne in France. Nicolas Fillette, for the 10th year in a row, is now #3 in America. It is the favorite champagne of the French, and it is the favorite champagne of many people around the world, and for very good reason. Now, I mentioned the word cooperative. A cooperative is a group of growers that band together. They're too small to release their own champagne. They're too small to own the equipment that's so extensive that you need for making and investing in sparkling wine. They come together as a union, as a group of growers, and they produce their champagne under a single banner. And therefore, you have some of the best fruit in the region, you have great investment in resources, and you can turn out a sensational champagne, and that is what Nicolas Fillette do. So we're doing something that we have never done before. We're going all out this month, and our lovers are not getting one bottle, they're getting two. You are getting the Brut Reserve, which is the flagship of the house. It's the mid-tier. There is a tier that sits underneath it. So this is the mid-tier of the Maison, the flagship of the house. And the Rosé has just arrived in Australia. We've been fighting for an allocation of Rosé for quite some time. We finally have it. It's finally arrived, and you are getting both bottles this month. And for our connoisseurs, you are getting the Rosé, and something very, very special. You are getting a bottle of the 2008 Palme d'Or. So an incredible month. But let us introduce the first wine. We have the Brut Reserve exclusive from the house of Nicolas Fillette. Now, this is their flagship. Amongst every champagne house, we have a wine that defines the house. We have a wine that is meant to be consistent across time. The Brut Reserve is this. We have a composition of 40% Pinot Noir, we have 40% Pinot Meunier, so a predominance of red fruit, and you can see that in the color and the depth of the wine and the aromatic properties. And then we freshen it up with 20% of Chardonnay. The winemaker at the Maison, Guillaume Raffayan, he will keep the Brut Reserve in the cellar from 3 to 4 years. So we do have some aging in the wine compared to other non-vintages that it might compete with in the market that are probably 2 years, even perhaps shorter than that, to 3 years. So we've got this beautiful balance of complexity, but a lovely freshness and elegance. We've got this biscuity character, we've got some nashy pear, we've got some nutty complexity, but for me, it's not something that you only want to have one glass of. And that's the beauty of Nicolas Fillette. It's a refreshing wine. For me, I always say this to people, it's the wine that I have in my fridge if I'm serving guests. It will appeal to both a connoisseur, someone who really knows their champagne, and a beginner to the champagne category alike. And for the first time in Australia, we welcome the Nicolas Fillette Brut Reserve Rosé. We have waited a really long time for this wine. I think it's been nearly 18 months before we received our first allocation. It's finally here. It's very exciting. You will be the first people in Australia to try this rosé. Now, When a house releases a rosé, it can be either on the very light spectrum, so just a small addition of red wine. The winemaker, in this case Guillaume, will take some of the Pinot Noir from the vineyard. He's breaking the skin, he's using that tannin, the color that's inside the skin, and he's letting it macerate with the juice, so he's creating a light Gamay style of red wine, and then he's blending his desired proportion of red wine into the white wine mix. Now, as a white wine composition, we've got 45% Pinot Noir, 45% Pinot Meunier, so very high proportion of red wine, 10% splash of Chardonnay for freshness and elegance and finesse. But we still have a wine, even though it's got savory depth, it has got this beautiful buttered bread brioche character to it. So that's indicating a little bit of age. And you see that in the color as well. We have this sort of pink but coppery color, indicating that the rosé's been in the cellar for a little bit of time, 2 to 3 years, probably 3.5 by the time we get it to Australia. So a little bit of age on there. It has good palate weight, it's got great structure, it's got beautiful length. This is a wine that's incredibly versatile. You know, the food pairings are endless. We've suggested that you partner it with the salmon, but up to you. We are moving into the cooler months in Australia and we start to move towards heartier meals, and the rosé is a great choice for pairing with veal, with meats, with other dishes that have a little bit more weight. What an amazing treat we have for all of our connoisseurs this month. And just a little hint to all of our lovers, if you upgrade from lover to connoisseur this month, you will get this bottle. This is as good as it gets. We have the iconic 2008, a very limited prestige cuvee, Palme d'Or from the house of Nicolas Fillette. This is one of the highest ranking wines, according to the critics, for decades. It is near perfect. It's an unbelievable champagne. It's over a decade in the cellar. We have Grand Cru Chardonnay. We have Grand Cru Pinot Noir. It is aged for an exceptional period of time. It's only the best vintages. It's only the best plots. They hand select by Guillaume, by the winemaker, to go into this composition, which is meant to represent perfection from the house. It comes in this incredible black dimpled bottle, which is just exquisite. And people often say to me, Kyla, I've never seen anything like this in a bottle of champagne. There is nothing like this in champagne. The bottle itself has a wonderful story. And Nicolas Fillette, when he was living in New York, he became enamored by this opera singer. And he followed her around for a period of time, not in a creepy way, but you know, he really was in adoration of her. And she used to wear these black pearls. She used to wear this pearl necklace. And he said, I need to create something that's as exceptional as she is in a champagne, and that's what he's done. It's only released in really, really good years, so very, very big breaks between the releases of the wine. We don't know when the next release is going to be, but you are so blessed to have it. The complexity of this wine is like nothing else. You know, you put your nose in the glass and you can sit with this for a long period of time and watch the layer upon layer upon layer of the aromatic properties and the texture of the wine on the palate just evolve. Please, only drink this champagne with someone you love. And if that is yourself, then that's fine. You don't want to share this with too many people because it is a wine that is so incredible that you'll never have the chance to do it again. 50% Chardonnay, 50% Pinot Noir. Watch the waves of Chardonnay, brioche, texture, nougat, interplay with the waves of Pinot Noir. We've got chocolate, we've got coffee, we've got spice, we've got roasted almonds. So you've got this freshness and creaminess of Chardonnay, and as Chardonnay moves from a young woman, because she's the feminine being of the vineyard, into a true woman, a woman of some age and substance, you see the roundness, you see the power of her come forward in a creaminess of French butter, a brioche, and Pinot Noir gets more structural, it gets more powerful. The interplay between the two grapes is perfection, and really this is a wine that you probably will never have again. So very, very, very lucky for all of our connoisseurs this month. Please enjoy this champagne, drink it slowly, savor it, and share it with someone that you love. We have a very special month for you, and I'm so pleased to be able to present the wines and the story of Nicolas Fillette. And you know that behind every champagne brand is a person, you know, and in this case, a group of people who've come together under the guidance the business nous of Nicolas Viet, who put together a group of passionate growers and is turning out, still to this day, some 40 years later, which is very young for a Grand Champagne house, the most exceptional champagnes. For me to delve into their wines, to listen to their stories, to find out more about the man who was Nicolas Viet, he was a bon vivant. He was such a charismatic man. And you know, still some people when I travel around Australia say to me, oh, I met him. I met him in New York, and I met him in London, and I met him in Sydney. And they have a story to tell about the man that was Nicolas Viet. He was a chairman of the house for many, many, many years. He was friends with Lady Diana. He was friends with famous people. He was one of those enamored characters who really was the center of the heart and soul of Nicolas Viet, and his spirit lives on in these wines. Well done to Guillaume, the winemaker. Well done to the team who produced such exceptional champagnes, and to all the growers behind the house. I hope you've enjoyed seeing the wines of Nicolas Viet this month. If you want to know more, of course, you can always call, you can always email. And until the next time on the Emperor Champagne Club, I hope you enjoy the wines, and we'll see you very soon.